This is Tindora governance, risk and compliance that proves it instead of claiming it. One rule runs through everything: unknown is never green. You begin in a role cockpit, one data set, a purpose-built home for each person, showing only what's yours to act on today, what's failing, what's due, what needs a decision. Every tile links to the record beneath it. Controls are the foundation, and the posture here is honest. Access control, AC4. Least privilege on cloud identity is genuinely failing, even though its population is 100% reconciled against the no false pass gate. Trusted scope, failed control. Two separate questions, never blended. Tindora never turns an unknown into a pass. Here is the heart of the platform. Instead of a separate control for every framework, regulation, and contract, Tindora designs one canonical control from the combined requirements and reuses it everywhere. Coverage and verified effectiveness are always shown separately, never merged into one flattering number. Open a canonical control, and its measurements are laid out plainly. Requirements, design, implementation, evidence coverage, and verified effectiveness, each kept distinct. 80% implemented, 60 evidenced, 40 verified. That gap is the truth most tools hide, and it exports as a right to audit package, with an evidence integrity manifest. Everything drills to the exact detail. Select a PCI requirement, and Tindora shows what it demands, which design element satisfies it, and that it is only partially satisfied. Because its scope reaches privileged users, the current evidence doesn't fully cover. This is evidence sufficiency, judged per requirement. Here, a 7-year evidence retention obligation is only partially satisfied. Retention is configured at 36 months, but 84 are required. Tindora names the gap in plain language, evidence item by evidence item. The evidence requirement matrix shows exactly which item satisfies which requirement, across every framework required, supporting or conditional. One library of evidence mapped to many standards at the strictest shared bar. It all sits on a common control taxonomy. 23 canonical controls, authored once, mapped across 11 frameworks and organized by domain, at a reuse factor above 8 times. Prove it once, satisfy it everywhere, with confirmed mappings kept separate from unreviewed candidates. Contracts become a system, not a questionnaire answered 50 times. Every customer commitment is captured, extracted, and assessed live against your controls. And no promise reads compliant while its evidence or testing is unknown. Open any obligation, and you see it as a cited commitment, mapped to the exact control that satisfies it here. Enforce MFA, carried by Control AC1 at 100% coverage. And extraction approval is never confused with compliance approval. An approved obligation can still read non-compliant, and the platform shows it plainly. This is why that matters. Tindora computes each control's blast radius, the customer commitments that depend on it. If this MFA control fails, you see immediately that the Northwind Master Agreement is exposed, which obligation is at risk, and by when. One failing control, traced to every promise it touches. Privacy is a first-class module. Every processing activity is recorded against its lawful basis under GDPR Article 30, and high-risk processing without an approved current impact assessment is never treated as compliant. A lapsed DPIA reopens the activity. And when a data subject exercises their right here, an erasure request under UK GDPR, Tindora runs it to the deadline and orchestrates deletion across every system that holds their data. No target is silently marked done. Each must be erased, vendor confirmed, or covered by a documented exception before a deletion certificate is issued. Policies are governed, not just stored. Every policy has an owner, a review cycle, and a live link to the controls it authorizes. So a lapsed or unapproved policy is flagged, not quietly trusted. When you can't fix something yet, you accept the risk honestly. Every exception is formal and time-boxed, never open-ended. And when an acceptance expires, the finding it was covering resurfaces automatically and re-enters monitoring. Here, one lapsed exception has already brought its gap back into the open. For defense and government work, this is built in. Trade and export controls clear only when the item is classified. The party is screened clean, and a valid license covers the destination. The U.S. person determination is status-based and fails closed, and a deemed export gate blocks a foreign national from controlled technical data without authorization. Most commercial tools simply don't have this. Financial controls are held to the same honesty. Across SOX and ICFR, key controls are tested over full populations. An incomplete population is insufficient, never a pass. ICFR is never reported effective while a material weakness is open or a key control is untested. Here, the conclusion is stated plainly: not effective. Acquisitions are assured, not assumed. Tindora tracks day one controls, inherited risk, transition service obligations, and control convergence. And a closed acquisition with open items is never treated as fully assured. Post-close, every item must actually be resolved. Every material change comes through the front door. On intake, a project is screened for the reviews. It needs security, architecture, privacy, AI, export, compliance, and SOX, and it cannot go live while any required review is unresolved, any high risk is open, or the go-live approval is missing. And it isn't closed until post-implementation validation passes. Risk is actually calculated. A real fair Monte Carlo 20,000 iterations puts expected annual loss at $614,000, ranging from about $500,000 at the median to $1.3 million at the tail, and above appetite. It's deterministic, so your auditor can rerun it and get the same number. A risk with no inputs refuses to invent one. Key risk indicators are watched continuously, each with a threshold and a breach state. When an indicator crosses its limit, it escalates to its owner and links straight to the risk. It signals an early warning system wired to the same live data as everything else. And every metric is tracked over time, with the latest point computed live, so the trends never diverge from the dashboards they summarize. Controls operating, obligation coverage, loss exposure, open signals, each honestly labeled improving or worsening against where it stood last quarter. Monitoring can't drift. Every open signal is derived live from your own data and routed, severity ranked, to the accountable owner, no parallel to-do list. Resolve the underlying object, and its signal clears itself. And on collection, a source that can't clear its population gate honestly reads, insufficient data, not a fake pass. Findings become tracked issues with an owner, a severity, and a deadline. Here, 11 critical vulnerabilities are already past their 30-day remediation window, and closure is never just a status change. It requires evidence and an independent retest before an issue is truly resolved. And scope is deliberate, not assumed. Applicability decides which requirements genuinely apply to you by framework, environment, and data type, so you're measured against what you actually must meet, and nothing is silently scoped in or out without a reason. It all spans the frameworks you actually answer to: SOC 2, ISO 27001, PCI, CMMC, NIST, and more, driven from one canonical control fabric. Prove multi-factor authentication once, and it satisfies every framework that requires it, while the requirement-specific differences stay visible. This is coverage, not keyword matching, and nothing counts until a human has reviewed it. Audit readiness stays honest. Before the auditor gives you the verdict, Tindora gives you a calibrated likelihood, never a guarantee. Here, SOC 2 reads material findings possible, with its real blockers named a connector and auth error that cannot assert deprovisioning, and critical vulnerabilities past their deadline. Honest and actionable. And when the auditor or the board asks, the report is one click away. Tindora generates a complete status report from the live engagement testing progress, evidence, and observations, every figure traced to its source, ready to print, download, or hand over. Weeks of screenshots and spreadsheets become a single, defensible export. This is the outward face, the trust center. Your externally facing assurance page, published resources, gated document access requests, and subscribers, so customers and prospects can verify your posture on demand. From the same live evidence, without a single email thread. It all rolls up into board and risk committee reporting, generated from that same live data, never a parallel spreadsheet. Every number carries its source and its calculation, and if too much is unknown, it refuses the confident headline. Every export is leak-checked, so nothing out of scope leaves the room. And you can simply ask. The Assurance Copilot answers grounded in your data, cites every record, and abstains when it can't prove it. Ask it to guarantee the audit, and it won't. It grounds what it can and names what it can't. Unknown is never green. and the platform bends to your environment, your tools, your frameworks, your language. So this is Tindora, assurance you can prove, because unknown is never green. See it running on your own frameworks, your own evidence, your own data, and turn trust us into, here's the proof. Visit tindoragrc.com or book a walkthrough with our team.